And I said this when the Cowboys moved off Micah. I said, Green Bay is going to win it for the first year. They're a good team. He's going to get a bunch of sacks. They're going to be in the playoffs. And the Cowboys defense, which was bad with Micah, will get worse. Just give it a year. Well, now, have you noticed what happened this week? Dallas did another move with Green Bay. They got Rashawn Gary. So he'll come off the edge. And then they got Quinnen Williams from the Jets and Kenny Clark from Green Bay. So directly or indirectly, 3 defensive linemen the Cowboys did not have and would not have if they signed Micah. So Gary, Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark is a better defensive line than if you just paid Micah a fortune. So and when you throw in DeMarvion Overshone at outside linebacker and edge, that front is excellent now. It is excellent. And my guess is with their 2 first-round picks, I would not be shocked if they didn't go get 2 corners. Because their offense doesn't, you don't worry about the offense. Schottenheimer had a good year. Dak's healthy. 2 receivers. O-line's getting better. Already a good run-blocking line. They got running back sealed off. So I could see Dallas going, hey, we're just going to go get 2 corners. And there's about 4 in the first round, and they could get both of them. So when they made the move on Micah, the media reaction, I got it, was totally predictable. Green Bay won. Cowboys are morons. I said, sometimes you make moves, you get rid of stuff because what do rich people want? Flexibility.
The ongoing discourse surrounding the Dallas Cowboys and their handling of the Micah Parsons situation has reached a point of diminishing returns. Colin continues revisiting this topic repeatedly, and I've already produced content addressing why we need to move past constantly evaluating everything through the Micah Parsons lens. An entire season has now passed without Parsons on the roster. It's time to transition our focus away from continuously rehashing that decision. What's crucial to understand is that moving on from Parsons wasn't Jerry Jones's original intention. He wanted to retain his star defender. The situation that has unfolded represents a pivot from what ownership actually desired, not some masterfully executed long-term strategy. This parallels what I observed with the Seattle Seahawks recently. Seattle didn't want to move on from Geno Smith and DK Metcalf initially. Those were not their preferred outcomes. Yet when those moves ultimately occurred and worked out favorably, Colin praised the organization for making them. This distinction matters tremendously. Sometimes, success isn't about making the optimal decision initially. It's about what you do when circumstances force you to pivot. When you're standing at a crossroads you didn't choose, the decisions you make from that position determine your trajectory. You might make a left turn from that point and have it work out brilliantly, even though your original intention was to go right. The evaluation of your decision-making can't ignore the context of how you arrived at that intersection. The Cowboys are absolutely navigating their current situation better than they have in past years. I'll acknowledge that without hesitation. But I'm not going to pretend this was some strategic long-term vision from Jerry Jones from the outset. When people say the media was predictable in assuming the Packers would win and the Cowboys would struggle, the response is straightforward. Jerry was publicly declaring, "We're keeping Micah, we're going all in, we're spending the money." Then he moved on from Micah. Of course, media reactions followed that trajectory. That's entirely logical. Here's the reality I articulated before the 2024 season began. Moving on from Parsons earlier would have positioned this franchise significantly better. Imagine if they had made this decision before last season. They could have acquired even greater compensation. They would have had multiple drafts already to address needs. They wouldn't have wasted an entire campaign operating in uncertainty. Colin drew an analogy to Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal's breakup, noting that Shaq landed with a ready-made team in Miami and achieved immediate success. But that comparison actually highlights the Cowboys' mismanagement. Dallas has squandered years of valuable time, literally years, that could have been spent building toward greatness. Last season didn't need to be a wasted year, yet it was exactly that. The financial implications compound the frustration. They weren't even paying someone like George Pickens yet. They could have been significantly more aggressive heading into last season's free agency, at the trade deadline, throughout the draft process. They could have constructed a legitimate Super Bowl push. Instead, they're now hoping for a rebound effect, trying to catch up to where they could have already been. The upcoming draft will be fascinating to watch from a Cowboys perspective. They currently have young pieces that may require development time to reach full effectiveness. If they had executed this transition earlier, we'd already be discussing year 2 of that process rather than year 1. That's always been my fundamental critique. Even if moving on from Parsons was the correct football decision, the timing created unnecessary obstacles. What makes the current discourse particularly confusing is Colin simultaneously pushing for the Cowboys to trade 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby while praising their current approach. The inconsistency creates whiplash. One moment the message is, be aggressive and acquire elite talent. The next it's, your current method allows you to have even more. Keeping up with the shifting logic becomes exhausting. Strangely enough, this feels like one of the quieter Dallas Cowboys offseasons in recent memory. Not in terms of actual moves or financial commitments, but in terms of the typical drama energy. The usual cycle of, what are the Cowboys going to do? What do they need to do? Jerry said this, Jerry said that. Is it Super Bowl or bust? Has been notably absent. For once, there's actually more conversation surrounding franchises like the Las Vegas Raiders and Baltimore Ravens than the Dallas Cowboys. That silence might be beneficial. Their loudest off-seasons in recent years, 2022, 2023, 2024, have produced remarkably average regular seasons despite all the attention and anticipation. If a quiet off-season can translate into legitimate regular season success, that would represent a meaningful shift in organizational fortune. The foundation exists for optimism. Last year's offense was genuinely legit. They moved the ball effectively and scored points consistently. The defense, however, was all over the place, inconsistent, unreliable, often a liability. If they can transform that unit into something that's not a weakness, this team feels very much capable of returning to the 12-win form they displayed during the Mike McCarthy era, when offense and defense operated in relative balance. If they actually build a top-level defense, we're no longer discussing a team with a nice win-loss record. We're discussing a legitimate contender, a franchise positioned to win meaningful games in January. The final hurdle then becomes execution. Can this specific group of Cowboys players elevate when the stakes are highest? Can they rise to the occasion in the biggest moments? That's where the rubber meets the road, where questions finally get answered. For now, though, I'm genuinely interested in your perspective on Dallas. How do you feel about the moves they've made this offseason through free agency and trades? Are you encouraged by the direction, or do you share concerns about the timing and execution? Let me know in the comments. I read every single response, whether you agree with my assessment or see things completely differently. Let's generate some genuine discussion, maybe even some spirited debate, but ultimately, let's keep it enjoyable. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. We're building something meaningful here. A community where authentic connection to the content and to each other creates genuine excitement about participation. I believe we're making real progress toward that goal. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it significantly helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you for watching.